This tutorial is for installing SimpleForm in a Ruby on Rails application the Polar Notion way. SimpleForm is used to create more dynamic forms and really prune out a lot of the excess that is in the default form generator. So we are going to spin up a unique new app so that you can follow along. So our new app is going to be called gem install SimpleForm, nice and clear. That's its only function. This is not part of a larger project. So Rails new gem install SimpleForm. Great, so the app installed, no problems there. We are then going to change into the directory. Awesome, let's see. And Git is already initialized, so I'm going to add and commit my initial commit. And again, this will be live on GitHub so you can see these changes publicly. We are now going to open up the SimpleForm documentation. So if we go through here, let's see, the links are also available in the description below. Yeah, just like a normal gem, we are going to start by installing. I'm going to go through here, get my tutorials. Awesome, so I'm going to go to the gem file. And again, I like to put things right, new gems right above the development and test group. There's a lot of core functionality above, so I'm going to drop it right in here. And then, yep, just like any gem, bundle install. Install is the default bundle command, and so you can just run bundle as well. Little pro tips there. It has now successfully been installed. And the next thing I want to do, and this is a step that if you forget it, it'll make it pretty painful and confusing later, is we want to actually generate the SimpleForm install. So I'm going to run this Rails generate SimpleForm install. And then, let's see here. It looks like it's created a couple files for me. So it's created an initializers file, a locales file, and then a template. This application does not have Haml installed. That would usually be the default. But here we can see it's also created a, in the templates file, an ERB scaffold form. And so anytime we scaffold anything in the future, it will automatically build out the form with a SimpleForm style instead of the traditional form tag. And so let's go ahead and just peek around really quick into config, initializers, SimpleForm. We can see a lot of stuff here. I would say 9 times out of 10, I don't even need to touch this, right? They've got some really smart defaults in place, but as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood, and we are just gonna leave it alone for now. So I'm gonna close this out, but it is there. You can see it, it's real. Yep, and so let's see here. If you had Bootstrap, you could run it with a Bootstrap, append Bootstrap to the generator, and it will put more like styles and that kind of stuff. So it starts to look very bootstrappy or foundation-y. At Polar Notion, Bootstrap is our default templating language, or templating library. SimpleForm also has this country select thing that it seems like they're very proud of. We don't use that too much, largely because most of our work is in the US, but it's there, and if you had a country attribute on an object, it's going to be looking for this in SimpleForm, which is kind of weird to me. So if you were to add country to something and then you're getting some type of cannot find country select error, it's probably because SimpleForm is looking for it. So you can either hack that apart, which I would not recommend, or just come in here, add the country select, and then it will give you a select field with all of the countries in it. So pretty neat tool. Here we can see an example of what SimpleForm should look like in ERB. So let's go ahead and take a look at that change. There's nothing currently that we can see represented, so we're going to need to generate something in order to see it in action. So one thing I'm going to do really quick is commit, install SimpleForm, gem to be most clear. Actually, yeah, I need to add it first. Install the gem. Awesome. And now we are going to just generate a scaffold really quick. Let's call it project. We're going to create a project object with a name field. Keep it pretty simple. And awesome, that was a success. And see all the files that were changed here by calling get status. And let's go take a look. So projects, and again, simple form pertains to forms specifically, so you're not going to see this play out anywhere else in the application. But now you can see I got this simple form for helper, and then instead of actually defining a text field, a text area, a select box, an upload, you simply call f.input, and then the attribute name, and simple form is going to look at the data type for that attribute, and then pick the appropriate one. And so name is by default. So one thing that we're going to do here, and we'll just kind of run through the normal cadence. I'm going to go into the database. Awesome, that's as expected. So let me break db migrate. We want to be able to see this in the browser, so we're going to work towards that. I'm going to spin up a Rails server, and then let's see if I can't get a browser here. Rails, awesome, yeah, you're on Rails, which is what we would expect. But now I'm going to go to projects. Right, since I just generated projects, this is Rails is going to create this route for me. Awesome. This is all pretty basic, nothing new to see, except for now I can see that this is my form, right? So this is the new action, but if I go into my code and open up the project's new action, it's rendering the form in here. So in this space is where it's rendering that form partial. I know it's a partial because it starts with an underscore. And so if I come in here and let's say I wanted to make this a select box and it wasn't an option to be picked by default, I could call collection, and then now simple form is going to give it to me in a select box. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do there. I could do as, call as, and then check boxes, I believe, right? And then now I can give it as checkboxes, radio buttons, and now these are radio buttons. Right? So all of this is simple form logic that allows me to pass in all these different things. One thing that's unique about simple form is it's kind of packaging everything together. So if I inspect, you can see that it generates a lot of code for me. Here, it's going to generate the label, the input, in this case, all of these different spans with the labels and the inputs inside. It's going to give them IDs, which is part of what Rails does, but it's going to do a lot of this stuff. And so let's say I wanted to wrap everything in a class. So I'm going to get rid of this because I wouldn't have a name field with radio buttons. Get back to my default. But let's say I want to put on this input field, I want to put a class. Right? Maybe if it's Bootstrap, a very common class is form-control, which is going to make it full width and kind of bevel the corners and put a nice little border on it. And so I would call input HTML, and then everything inside of here is the code that pertains to the input HTML. I believe we have a wrapper and a couple other things as well. Input HTML is the most common. And so now, if I refresh and I inspect, I can see that on the input class, I've got form control, right? So I can also put foobar, fizzbuzz, and now I inspect again, foobar, fizzbuzz, right? No need for comma separated. Really, it's just like how you would put them in classes if it was just HTML. But this is a really big need, so if you were to do something like this, it is not going to work like you would expect. So as you can tell, those classes are not there, and they aren't really represented anywhere. So some nuance to actually using simple form in the wild. Feel free to explore the documentation. You can see a lot of label changes and error handling. And again, it's pretty clear, concise. Simple Form has a way of really getting all of the clutter out. And a great combination is Haml plus Simple Form, which again is part of the Polar Notion default. So as you start to marry these two together, you're going to be able to cut back on the code that you write and then have a really clear, compelling form file. So there you have it. Simple Form, the Polar Notion way.